A Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, will start at pole position with Jeff Gorvette, who's outside. Row 2 has Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Lightning McQueen, the current champion. Row 3 has Kurt Busch-Tire, please don't say the bad word, and Carl Edwards, who's outside. Row 4 has Clint Bowcar and Bobby Swift to his outside. Row 5 has Cal Weathers, the 2008 Piston Cup champion, and Denny Carlin to his outside. Row 6 has Greg People and Kevin Carvick, the car that is currently second in points. Row 7 has the 2002 Piston Cup champion, Tony Gasworth, and the jumper, Jeff Burnton. Row 8 has two green cars, Brick Yardley and Mark Carton. Both are quite nice. Row 9 has Jimmy Cables and Mike Yankee Jr., who both have a 00 in their number. Row 10 has Martin Carrix Jr. and Casey Corner, starting from the same position as last race. Row 11 has the mean yellow car, Kyle Busch-Tire and David Brudicar. Row 12 has Joey Logierno and Juan Pablo Montoya, who did well at the Brickyard. Row 13 has David Raycar and Jamie McCarry, who seems to be inconsistent. Row 14 is Brick Hicks and Todd Marcus, who did not skip qualifying. Row 15 is Brad Karslowski and Phil Tankson, who everyone seems to love right now. Row 16 is Reb Meeker and Ernie Gearson to his outside. Row 17 is Moray Clutchburn and Rex Revler to his outside. Row 18 is TG Castlenut and Matt Karzith. What are you doing starting all the way back here? Row 19 has Tommy Highbanks and Jack DePost to his outside. Row 20 has Chip Gearings and Dino Draftsky to his outside. And in row 21, there's Marcus Kranksler and Ivanov Tusky making his first start in the Piston Cup. And starting in 43rd is Will Draft Rev How? And these 7 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. Now into the race. Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, would lead for the first lap of the race before Will Draft Rev would be out because he hit the wall. Jeff Gorvette would take the lead on lap 2 and lead for the next 17 laps before his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him, leading until lap 24, where Cal Weathers would take the lead from him. On lap 32, he'd lose the lead to Bobby Swift, who would lead for 5 laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead. He'd lead for 10 laps before Kyle Busch-Tire would be second as of lap 47, where he wrecks Lightning McQueen, who's now down 1 lap. Why? And Ryan Newcar would retake the lead, leading until lap 56, where he'd lose the lead to Greg People, who would lead all the way until lap 63, where he'd lose the lead to Kyle Busch-Tire. He'd lead for 2 laps before his older brother Kurt would take the lead from him, leading until lap 68, where Jeff Gorvette would be back in the lead, leading until lap 72, where Kevin Carvick would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 4 laps before Ryan Newcar would once again rocket back up to the front, leading for 5 laps before Bobby Swift would be back in the lead, leading until lap 84, where Denny Carlin would take the lead, leading until lap 92, where Kurt Busch-Tire would take the lead from him, leading for 3 laps before Jeff Gorvette would retake the lead, leading for 3 more laps before Cal Weathers would retake the lead, leading until lap 115. But fortunately, Lightning McQueen would be back on the lead lap on lap 108. Denny Carlin would take the lead on lap 115 and lead for 4 laps before he'd lose the lead to Ryan Newcar, who would lead for 8 laps before Cal Weathers would be back in the lead off of pit cycles, before Ryan Newcar would once again retake the lead, leading until lap 132, where Jimmy Cables would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 2 laps before Tony Gasworth would pass him on the inside and lead for just 2 laps before Jeff Gorvette would once again retake the lead, leading until lap 141, where Cal Weathers would once again take the lead. He'd lead for 5 laps, but unfortunately, Ernie Gearson would be out because he ran out of fuel on lap 142. On lap 146, Carl Edwards would take the lead and lead for 2 laps before Mark Carton would take the lead from him, leading until lap 151, where Denny Carlin would once again retake the lead, leading for 6 laps before Kevin Harvick would take the lead, leading for 2 laps before Lightning McQueen would be back in the lead, leading until lap 173, where Kevin Harvick would retake the lead, leading for 2 laps before Cal Weathers would take the lead from him, leading for 3 laps before the Rocket Ryan Newcar would be back up front. But on lap 183, Lightning McQueen would once again retake the lead, leading for 4 laps before Denny Carlin would once again retake the lead, leading for 11 laps, but then Brick Yardley would take the lead off of pit cycles, leading until lap 201, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead from him. But then he'd lose the lead 3 laps later to Bobby Swift, who would lead until lap 206, where Denny Carlin would once again retake the lead, leading for 3 laps before Jeff Gorvette would once again be back in the lead, leading until lap 214. But Kyle Busch Tire is 18th as of lap 214, where he wrecks David Rudikar, Casey Corner, and himself? Is this karma? But why are you wrecking other cars? Lightning McQueen would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 253, where Denny Carlin would once again retake the lead, leading until lap 264, where Kurt Busch Tire would once again take the lead, and then lose the lead on lap 271 to Brick Yardley. Brick Yardley would lead until lap 273, where Denny Carlin would once again retake the lead, leading for 5 laps before Lightning McQueen is, of course, back in the lead. But on lap 282, Denny Carlin would be back in the lead for another 5 laps. Greg Beeple would retake the lead and then lead for 2 laps before Denny Carlin is once again back in the lead. But Cal Weathers would take the lead on lap 294 and lead for 4 laps before Ryan Newcar would retake the lead, leading until lap 300, where Denny Carlin would once again take the lead, and lead until lap 304, where Jeff Gorvette would once again retake the lead, leading for 4 laps before Kevin Harvick would take the lead from him, leading until lap 311, where Lightning McQueen would once again retake the lead, leading until lap 317, where Carl Edwards would once again take the lead. He'd lead for 2 laps before Cal Weathers would be back in the lead, leading until lap 324, where Denny Carlin, of course, retakes the lead and leads for another 3 laps before Cal Weathers would be back in the lead, leading until lap 332, where Mike Yankee Jr. would take the lead off of pit cycles, leading for 1 lap before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 5 laps before Lightning McQueen would, of course, retake the lead. But on lap 354, Kevin Harvick would be back in the lead. He'd lead for 2 laps, but Phil Tankson is 22nd as of lap 356, where he wrecks Joey Logano, who shouldn't be following the Mean Yellow Cars examples. His teammate Denny Carlin would take the lead after the restart, but on lap 376, Kurt Busch Tire would be back in the lead. 9 laps later, Cal Weathers would once again retake the lead, but on lap 391, he would lose the lead to Denny Carlin, who would lead the final 9 laps to win the 2010 Copper Canyon 400. With Kurt Busch Tire finishing 2nd this race, Ryan Newcar 3rd, Cal Weathers 4th, and Jeff Gorvette rounding out the top 5. And here is the top 20 of the race, with Bobby Swift and Kevin Harvick missing out on a top 5 finish, despite leading numerous laps. Tony Gasworth, Mark Carton, and Lightning McQueen would round out the top 10 of the race, with Carl Edwards, who led 4 laps, missing out on a top 10 finish. And Moray Clutchburn would round out the top 20, just beating Matt Karseth to the position. Dino Draftski would finish 23rd this race. I think a shift right would have done better though. But TG Castlenet finishes 32nd. I don't know why. Expectations were higher for him. And Brick Hicks is the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 37th. This race was also relatively caution-free. And here is the top 20 in points, where Lightning McQueen is leading by way too many points. And Denny Carlin now moves up into the top 5 in points after his win. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back in the top 20.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Even though the points gap went down, the gap between Lightning McQueen and second-placed Kevin Harvick is still 576 points. How is there any gap between first and second that is that big? How? But Lightning McQueen did not win 2 consecutive races in a row. And Matt Kenseth is still not leading laps. Still having only led 1 lap this season. And it was a race where everyone led a lap. And the next race, the 22nd race of the 2010 Piston Cup season, will be coming out soon enough, because this one is gonna be a long one. And something else that is very long is the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is unfortunately still going on. The Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom. But who stands in the way of this common dream? The tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin, who is not very nice to Ukrainians, and he's not even nice to Russians either, forcing them to sign up for the draft, even though the war is none of their business. Why do you need land from Ukraine? You already have enough of your own. And the Ukrainians are fighting back with the current southern counteroffensive going on right now around the city of Kherson. Hopefully, Kherson and the other Ukrainian cities that have been taken by the Russians under Putin will be liberated very soon. And we at the Hashtag K-Bullet YouTube channel will continue to stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukrainie! Heroyam slava! Nechai shviche darutie Ukrainie permoha! May all occupied lands and peace be returned to Ukraine very soon.